Hello and welcome. You can call me Krish, and this is Throne and Liberty. Now, on one of my recent streams, and after realizing it, I took a vastly different progression path as to how most people will play this game and how most people will suggest to play this game. Whether it's better or worse, I'll leave that up to you. You'll see what I mean. First thing you'll notice is that I still have greens and blues along with some very interesting purples, if you know what these are. What's happened here is you're supposed to generally trade up your greens, then transfer them into your blues, and then trade up your blues, and then transfer them into your purples. That way you get your level 6, level 9s with blessings to be able to make your trading even easier. Now, from other games that I've played, I generally go either early game directly to end game as best as I can if I know my end game gear and setup like how I do for this, or I'll do a little bit of mid game and then go straight to my end game max setup. In this game, doing that's a little bit different because it's an MMO. MMOs require a decent bit of grind time. However, in this game, if you know exactly what you need to grind and where it's from, then you can still focus exactly what you're looking for. Now, as opposed to trading up everything, upgrading to the next rarity, what I did is I focused on the auction house, this wonderful, beautiful place. And elephant in the room, I got a solid 6,000 lucent. Now, if you look at the bottom right here, you notice that I had a solid 8,000 lucent. Now, what a lot of people say is, hey, while you're farming everything, trading everything up, you're going to end up going through your dailies or going through your content, and you're going to get all of these extra purples. You should just sell them on the market. I also suggest to do that. Because I focused on just my endgame purple setup, you'll notice that in my auction history, there's tons of blues beside these purples, and you'll see them for very interesting prices. Usually what happens here is that you're gonna end up using all of these blues to trade into your gear. I didn't trade up my blues, didn't trade up my greens, and what that let me do is I was able to sell all of these items. And you're like, why would I do that? I need them for my own gear. Well, this game came out a week ago for most people, 2 weeks ago for early access, and so things in the auction house are gonna have a vastly different price than they will a month down the line, therefore letting me be able to make lucent really easily. And on top of that, you'll notice I only started even selling anything from the 4th. So in 4 days, I made 8,000 lucent with more to be made. The reason this kind of works out for me is that having all this lucent while waiting and holding on to it is going to be beneficial because within the next few weeks, prices of things are going to drop vastly, and while grinding for the other gear pieces that might be a little bit more expensive or are just guaranteed through certain means, such as the grips or the resistance, I'd have gained enough lucent to buy every single piece of gear that I need and probably trade them up quite a bit, purely off of how long it would have taken for me to farm these guaranteed pieces that would have been a waste to buy since it wouldn't have been up to chance as much, making me feel like this is a pretty viable option instead of trading up piece by piece. Now you're gonna say to yourself, hey, this is kind of interesting. What exactly do I do if I want to go about this path of progression? Getting the items to sell is quite simple. You'll get all these items across your regular grind that you have to do. Your daily grind is generally going to go like this. You log in, your contracts have refreshed, you get more co-op dungeon material to be able to go claim the rewards at the end, and throughout doing both your contracts and your co-op dungeons rewards, you'll get abyssal contract tokens, and you'll get contract coins. And with these contract coins, you'll want to go to your local contract coin merchant and buy something like a precious blessing pouch, which will then give you the chance at getting purples or contract scrolls, which when completed in their respective abyssal dungeons, such as Shadowed Crypts, Silluvius's Abyss, Sanctuary Desire, or Saradama Island, much like your daily precious blessing pouch, also gives you the chance at getting purples. However, the purples that come from these co-op dungeons are going to be generally worth a decent bit more, especially with good traits, than the ones that you'll get from your just daily pouch. Another thing that a viewer made me realize, if you want some quick blues or some quick purples, what you could also do is make sure to look at your lithograph. You'll notice that there's some gear in here, and all greens can be crafted. Blues you'll kind of have to find, or you'll be able to just use some of those crafted blues to craft the purples, but in the goal of making money, if the blue that you get from the lithograph crafting has like a bad trait, feel free to then just put it back in the lithograph book to try and hope you get a purple. If it has a good trait, then you'll be able to sell it for a decent bit of lucent. Kind of like what happened when I tried to craft an accessory on stream to just go ahead and upgrade one of my purple ones, it didn't really work out when the item can be put up for 210 lucent. You know, that's just another thought that I had. Now, you go through all these, you get your items, you're like, okay, how do I sell them? You would generally sell items in two ways, whether it be between trade extraction or lithographing. Both of these cost two different sets of materials. With trade extraction, it costs trade extraction stones. You get trade extraction stones through the contract coin merchant. You can also buy them from the shop inside the ornate coin area, right beside more precious blessing pouches and something called enchanted ink, which will then lead me into how to lithograph items. For 90% of your time, you're going to just be trade extracting items to sell them on the auction house. Lithographing items requires you to have a blank lithograph, either a weapon or armor one, depending on what type of item you're trying to lithograph. To craft these, you'll need to go to one of these fancy little crafters over here, down by Stoneguard Castle in, well, Stoneguard. Now once you get here, if you go to your weapon crafter, you'll be able to find the crafting recipe for the precious blank lithograph. As you look at the recipe, you'll see that you need that enchanted ink, mana steel, polished crystal, and rubrics for the weapon one. Now we're going to take note of this 10 precious rubrics. The 50 cost along with the 20 cost and 20 cost. Note that I have 0 of this rubrics. Now we come over to the fancy armor crafter, go back to the armor materials, and you will notice, hey, this only costs 25, 10, 10, 5, and 5. Out of either of these two, you'll be probably selling armor lithographs more than weapon lithographs. As you can see, I actually have resources for this as well. Keep in mind, you can buy these resources on the auction house. I wouldn't suggest it unless the item that you're trying to sell as a lithograph is worth a whole lot. A nice little easy trick when you're trying to find the cost of an item, you just look at what your trade is on it, click trade extraction, click on the traded item, don't extract yet, look at search the auction house after you click on it as an option. You see that it's here, and then you can just say, oh, I have max health, or I have hit chance, or I have health regen. Let me click on that, look at the prices, or you can just go off of lowest price here. But I found that sometimes the price will be a bit wiggity, and so it's kind of helpful to go see what the previous prices were. That way you know you're selling an item for the good item price. You know, sadly, you can't do that trick for lithographs. They just don't let you for some reason. It's kind of mean. I'd like it to be faster. All in all, I just thought that I'd share my perspective and how I ended up going about progressing. And with that being said, hope you enjoyed. Hope to see you around soon.